Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC.
Thanks so much for joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Dave Ross and myself. My name is Chris Swan. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. If you have questions about things we talk about today on the show, questions about your retirement outlook in general, the Retirement Team Action Plan we'll get into a little later on. That number again, 419-794-3030, or you can find them online, find out more about the team, schedule a time to speak with them at arhq.com. Today on the show, buckle up for more 2025 stock market predictions. You're getting ready to retire and have a pension. Today we'll help you decide what might be your best option and are there any good reasons to claim Social Security early. All this and more, but before we dive into any of it, let me check in with the guys. Nolan, Dave, glad to be with you once again. How are you?
Yeah, doing great, Chris. Had a great Thanksgiving. Luckily, I was able to make it to the gym on Tuesday of this week, so I'm back to the best-looking guy on radio, I guess, as they say again, after hitting the gym. And then went down to Columbus, did a couple days working on our 2025 business plan, so some good, valuable ads that we're going to do for our clients and our listeners. And then this weekend, I am off to Kent State with my son playing in another hockey tournament weekend, so another fun-filled weekend for us as well.
Nolan can definitely say he's the best looking guy in radio, especially when he's sitting next to me. But Thanksgiving was very good. I have not made it back to the gym. When I sat down on the chair today, it started to buckle. So I need to find my way back to the gym. A week from Friday, my oldest daughter graduates from the University of Cincinnati. So that's going to be a big family trip down to Cincinnati to take that in and celebrate with her. And looking forward to a prosperous new year and a solid end to 2024.
Absolutely. A lot of people winding down kind of at the end of the year, but you guys, we know retirement is a 24-hour, 365-day a year sort of situation, so no signs of slowing down here at America's Retirement Headquarters. We appreciate both of you spending time with the listeners. Let's go ahead and dive into this. The U.S. national debt. It is so big that it's kind of hard to relate. Back in 1994, it was $4.7 trillion. Fast forward 30 years, it is, $36 trillion. It's kind of like a family with a household income of $50,000 having a credit card debt of $330,000. Makes you think that even if the Trump tax cuts are extended, sooner or later, those taxes are going to have to go up. So what kind of planning with that in mind can we do now to take advantage of lower rates?
Yeah, extremely scary where we sit at as a country, with our national debt over $36 trillion. If you break those numbers down and you look at it, that's $271,324 per taxpayer, ultimately to cover those national debts. Now, if you take that and you extend that even further and you look at the debt per citizen, so again, not all people are taxpayers in the U.S. Some people are youth, as an example, but you spread that burden between every citizen in the United States, that's $106,763 in taxes that every citizen would have to pay. So they really have to get that under control. And Chris, what I would say to you is I would say first and foremost, tax planning seems to me to be kind of a buzzword. It's a buzzword, I think, that a lot of financial advisors or insurance professionals talk about, but they don't really have the specifics on how to help somebody out in their situation to take advantage of lower tax rates. So what I want to do is I want to get really specific in what we do for our listeners and our clients in what is called the Retirement Team Action Plan. So in the Retirement Team Action Plan, we talk about the 4 different items: taxes, estate planning, asset protection, and money management. So in looking at the tax planning part of it, the one thing that I would tell you to do is always consult the advice of your accountant or CPA before you make any tax changes. But that's where we love working hand in hand with a client's CPA or accountant, or, making an introduction to somebody and ultimately going through the tax savers checklist. I'll give you an example of somebody who recently came in from one of the workshops that we did. We'll call them Terry and Karen. In their situation, what we were able to do is we were able to go through the tax savers checklist and identify some very specific areas to help them take advantage of potentially lowering the tax rates. An example of that is they had a lot of money that was shown up on taxable reportable income on their tax return. And being higher income earners, they could benefit from potentially switching money over into tax-free municipal bonds would be one of the items that we picked up on the tax savers checklist. The second one is we looked at tax-efficient required minimum distribution withdrawal strategies. So in their situation, Terry and Karen were over the age of 73. They're taking required minimum distributions, and quite frankly, they're just putting that money into their bank account. They're then philanthropic. They like their church and they like one of the local universities. And so they donate a decent amount of money to their church and a local university. Well, by looking at it, again, going through the tax savers checklist, we were able to point out the strategy to be able to take and donate your required minimum distributions directly to the charity. And by doing so, can help satisfy the required minimum distribution rules, but also be able to keep that income off of their tax returns. And then the third thing is it's kind of like this snowball effect. So when you have less reportable income, you could have lower Medicare premiums. There's a test for Medicare called IRMA that determines the amount that you pay for Medicare. And it's like a 2-year look back that they do. But ultimately, the cost that you pay for Medicare can double, sometimes triple, if your income level gets too high. Yet by having less reportable income, again, shifting those required minimum distributions could be another way that they would have lower Medicare premiums by not having that income as taxable. And then the last thing we looked at is they had a carry forward loss. They had met an advisor years ago in the past. Unfortunately, his hot stock tips turned out to be big losers. And then ultimately on their tax return, they were carry forward this large amount of losses, only being able to write off about $3,000 a year. But looking at their portfolio, when they got a new advisor, they had some nice unrealized gains on a couple of the different positions in their portfolio. What they can do is they can lock in some of the profits and use that to help offset some of those carry forward losses as well. This strategy alone for Terry and Karen, by investing just a little bit of an hour of their time and going through the tax savers checklist, could potentially save them thousands of dollars in taxes, immediately impacting their taxes for now. In the tax savers checklist, we also start to do and create a roadmap for you. So in looking at the roadmap, we look at what the future looks like. So in Terry and Karen's example, it's highly likely that they're probably going to pass wealth on to the next generation. They're not even already spending their RMDs. And some of the investment assets that they have, like their traditional retirement accounts, ultimately are not the most tax efficient way to transfer wealth onto somebody else. And so by showing them that, we were able to look at tax saving strategies for today using the 25-point checklist on our tax savers checklist, going over creating a tax roadmap that ultimately could create a legacy that could be substantially bigger than just delaying what this ticking tax time bomb is. So I know, Dave, you also work with a lot of clients and develop the retirement team action plan and look at tax saving ideas as well.
If you're hearing all this and it sounds almost akin to a second language out there, let's try to boil it down to simpler terms. There are ways out there to take advantage of the tax code as it is right now. President Trump has said so much that he wants to extend these tax rates as they are for the foreseeable future, but that just gives you more time to do this. Pay less in the bigger picture towards Uncle Sam. With Black Friday in the rearview mirror, a lot of people, spend time camped outside of their stores to save, a couple $100 or, $50 or whatever on this or that. We're talking about potentially saving thousands of dollars on your taxes, and it just starts with doing that tax savers checklist. About an hour of your time could be some invaluable time. All it takes to get started to begin that retirement team action plan, setting up a time to speak with the Retirement Guys formula. 419-794-3030 is how you go about doing that. Once again, 419-794-3030. or you can go to the website, schedule a time right there at arhq.com. If you have a pension for retirement still, consider yourself fortunate because they are rare these days. I've seen the numbers somewhere in the 10% range for private sector employees. But here's the thing. Pensions come with their own set of worries. For example, what if your pension is bought out or it fails? Now, if you work for the federal or a state government, you probably don't have these worries. But then you hear things like this. The states of Michigan and Wisconsin, they're now investing in Bitcoin for their pension program. Guys, I know you guys do pension analyses. Is this the kind of thing that steers you towards recommending perhaps taking a lump sum and someone managing the money on their own?
That's a very good thing to say, Chris, because I would say that there's a lot of interesting things going on up here in the great state of Ohio. I'm an old teacher. I had 21 years as a teacher in various public school systems, and my wife is in her 33rd year of teaching. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I came over here and joined the Retirement Guys formula is to reach out and offer some comprehensive planning and retirement planning services to educators. And there's been a lot of anxiety about the state teachers' retirement system up here in Ohio because they have experienced some interesting things with investment losses that have forced them to not offer a cost of living adjustment. And when I signed on as a teacher and when my wife signed on as a teacher, it was pretty much a given that in retirement, you were going to have a 3% cost of living adjustment every year added on to your pension payment. Well, that is indeed not the case anymore for Ohio teachers. And so what the state teachers have done is they lowered it from they had a 35 and age 60 for full retirement in the pension. Then they lowered it to 34 and any age for a period of 5 years. And they just recently, a couple weeks ago, approved lowering it to 33 and any age. So now all of these teachers that are at 33 years of service or in their 33rd year of service, all of a sudden now they can take a look at retirement. So what do you do if there's no cost of living adjustment? Well, you mentioned it. There are opportunities to take lump sum withdrawals. And quite honestly, some of these people very well, all of them should consider taking a lump sum withdrawal. Yes, it permanently reduces your pension, but that money is yours to control, which is one advantage. Secondly, that money, if it's invested wisely and invested in a way that guarantees future income, that creates a buffer that can help with inflation risk. So I've also handled a number of situations where companies have eliminated pensions, and what they've done is they've offered their employees a sweetener to cash out on the pension. So when that happens, you really, us on the advisory side, we need to lay out all of the alternatives and the options and help these people make their best decision. And that's easier said than done in a lot of respects. But inflation risk is a big deal with pensions. You need to be, if you're retired for 30 plus years, you better have something that gives you increases throughout the retirement life cycle so that you can cover your cost of living. That's where this retirement team action plan becomes so important because it covers all of the bases, but it also can be pivoted to help teachers make adjustment, or anyone under a pension make adjustments when their personal situations change. So it's a very interesting period of time that we're in up here specifically. But anyone that has a pension, they need to be thinking about how that pension fits into their retirement team action plan and provides the needed income that they have for their entire retirement, which who knows how long that will be.
And, what I would say for those folks that are wondering, what option should I take with my pension? The first thing I would tell you is that this is an irrevocable decision. So this is a decision that you want to get right the first time. There are cases where a lump sum distribution can make sense, and I'll give you a couple of examples, but it's not always the best option to take a lump sum distribution. Sometimes the monthly payout can be a great choice. I think of a couple that I recently met. We'll call them Marvin and Sally. They had the option to take a lump sum of all of the money, take a single life payout. In this case, that would be for her life as long as she lived. She could take a joint life payout. In this case, it would be for both her and her husband, Marv. Or she could take a joint life payout with a period certain, meaning that Marv and Sally would get paid for the rest of their lifetime, and at least a certain number of payments would be made to their family. And if Marv and Sally passed before that period certain was over, their beneficiaries, in this case, their kids, would get whatever money that's left over. So in looking at the numbers, let's just say it was a $400,000 lump sum. It was just about a little over $2,300 a month for a monthly payout for single life. $2,000 a month would be the 100% survivorship option for joint life, or $1,950 would be the joint life payout with a 20-year period certain. So in Marv and Sally's situation, income for life for both of their lifetime was one of their primary objectives. And when you look at it, you might think, hey, let's take the $400,000 because that's a big lump sum of money and take and do something with it. The problem is, if you take that lump sum of money and it's not invested correctly, you have the risk that that could be blown up. I mean, if you put it all in the stock market, and heaven forbid the stock market goes down dramatically, that value could immediately go down, accelerating the risk of them outliving that money. Mm-hmm. So they needed to earn, if you look at the $2,333 a month for the single life payout, that would be about a 7% income stream that $400,000 would need to generate to equal the same amount. But in this case, protecting both of them and making sure that those payments lasted for both of their lifetime, in addition to the period certain of 20 years, made Marv and Sally very comfortable to have the highest income that they could count on for the rest of their lifetime, knowing that in the next 20 years, if they both passed away, their children would get any remaining payment. The lump sum can make a great choice if you have other assets and you desire to have more control over that asset. A good example there is if you took the lump sum payment, you could invest it in like an insurance contract that you could go out and you could get an income payment on your own. And in that contract, it allows you to still have access to your principal. You have to look at surrender charges and withdrawal features, but you don't give up control of that asset. So in that situation, you kind of got the best of both worlds where you've got an income, but you still have access to the principal and you have some growth opportunity with it as well. Usually in those options, you might get a little bit less on a monthly amount because you're still maintaining control of the $400,000 and access to the lump sum in the future. Gives you a little bit more flexibility. Another example is if we go back and we look at Marv and Sally's example, $2,333 a month was the payment she would receive if she took it out for just her life. But if she took it out for 100% joint life payout, meaning both of their lives, that was $2,000 a month. There's about a $333 a month reduction between Sally only getting income for her life or Marv and Sally getting income for both of their lifetimes. Another example of why working with a qualified professional could help in this solution is they should go out and look at the insurance companies of America, and Sally should figure out if for $333 a month, if she could purchase enough life insurance to cover if she passed away first, her husband Marv in the form of life insurance. Because of the advantage of life insurance, it can be paid income tax-free, probate-free cash, where if Marv inherits the retirement account and had the lump sum, that would still be taxable income in Marv's situation. In addition to that, it's fair to say that Marv could pass away first. And if Marv passed away, Sally could make a couple decisions. Number one, she could decide to change the beneficiary to her children, thus still being able to pass on the life insurance to her children. Or two, she could simply cash in the policy, no longer take those payments, and have the higher income, plus if it's a permanent cash value policy, whatever cash values build up inside of there. And with some of these life insurance policies, they include things like terminal, chronic, critical illness coverage. So if you're facing a pension, just remember number one, it's an irrevocable decision. What's right for the person in the office next to yours may not be the best choice for you. What worked for your friends that you go out and socialize with may not be what's in your best interest in your family situation. Just as Dave talked about, getting a customized plan for your unique individual situation and having us complete the retirement team action plan would be the best advice I could give for our listeners.
If you've got the luxury of a pension still, just understand there is still a lot of nuance involved, just as there is with a 401k or whatever retirement accounts other people may have out there. And you want to make sure, as Nolan said, with it being irrevocable, definitely measure twice, cut once sort of situation. The team at the Retirement Guys Formula, they can help you out with that with their retirement team action plan. All you need to do to get started and have that conversation, set up a complimentary time to come and speak with them, 419-794-3030, or go to the website, arhq.com. Now, the stock market has been up since the election, perhaps reacting to Donald Trump's promises of lower taxes and financial deregulation. Here's money manager Ryan Payne on Fox Business with his bullish prediction for 2025.
We're seeing money just plowing into the market. You could have $1 trillion going to mutual funds and ETFs this year, which is a huge record. And where is that money going? Is blindly going into the S&P 500. So if you use the same metric, if we get to the same crazy multiple we did back in 2000, that gets you to 7,000 on the S&P 500. So I think that's realistic, and it's probably going to come sooner than later, meaning like maybe before the end of next year.
So Dave, do you and your clients have that view for next year, or are you being more cautious?
Well, first thing, when he was talking about 2000, all I can think about was, well, wow, the tech bubble. Yeah. And people that were overly invested in technology stocks really got hammered. And at that point, you really need to take a look at, is the market overvalued? Is the market fairly valued? What are the indicators that we should be looking at in order to gauge where we're at? Politically, I think we're in a real sweet spot for growth because we do have, and I know a lot of people feel like gridlock is important in order for checks and balances in government to work effectively. But Trump's policies tend to be pro-growth. And really, if you think about it, for the next 2 years, he's got a carte blanche. That's probably a little strong a term, but he's got two chambers of Congress that are going to work with him. So is that a good thing for the stock market? I believe so. You also have a Federal Reserve that is cutting interest rates. We have yet to see how if that's going to make a difference on mortgage and borrowing rates, but usually there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But eventually mortgage rates should drop and more people should be running into the housing market. So I feel bullish about where we're sitting right now. Should you still do your homework? Should you still be analyzing and looking at economic factors as well as how companies are performing? Well, here we tend to really concentrate on companies that are profitable, have little debt, and they have phenomenal growth prospects. If you have those three things working for you, that is a good investment in terms of consistent growth with good prospects for the future and it should be lower volatility in terms of if the market gets a little haywire. If you're working with a financial advisor, and especially if you're working with the Retirement Guys formula, we really take all of those things into account when we put our different investment models together. And there's a systematic logic that goes into looking at things for investment. Like if you're things that people are buying every day, that's a daily essential. That's a good portfolio for stability and growth. So yes, I definitely think that we have a chance at a really good 2025, but your guess is as good as mine, Chris. Things can change quickly.
The saying goes, hope for the best, plan for the worst. I've had the luxury of doing this radio program with you guys for, the past 4 years or so. And one thing that I think is certainly worth noting is that investment methodology is something that has been a consistent mark at the Retirement Guys formula as far as, daily essentials, things with, great growth potential and things like that. And so if the idea of hoping for the best, planning for the worst makes sense, but you're not entirely sure how to do that, how to take the emotion out of that investing strategy, why not turn to the Retirement Guys formula? It's as simple as setting up a time to speak with them. Start developing that retirement team action plan. 419-794-3030 is how you go about doing that. 419-794-3030, or go to the website, arhq.com. Now, the so-called 4% rule of retirement withdrawals is turning 30, but new research by the American Council of Life Insurers gave the rule a stress test and found that, well, quite frankly, it failed for older ages, resulting in the lowest income over time. So with that in mind, what can be used to help shield income against both market volatility and longevity risk?
Well, I think, the $1 million question there is the 4% rule starting to fail in retirement. And, the thing is number one is it's called a 4% rule. I don't know necessarily I would call it a rule as a suggestion. Again, it's been something that's been around for a long time. For the last 30 years, at least since I've been in business, what I have been talking about is our approach here. It's called the independent income system. And so if you want to know, what is the philosophy we use here at America's Retirement Headquarters, what I would do is I would recommend that you utilize Google and type in independent income system. And you can watch a 15-minute video as I talk about this, but let me talk a little bit about the 4% rule going back 30 years ago. Essentially what this rule is this rule says that if you have a portfolio of roughly, 60% stocks and 40% bonds, that it can withstand a withdrawal over a 30-year time frame. And 30 years ago, I think that would be probably very true because the market was not nearly as correlated as it is nowadays. 30 years ago, I think pensions were probably more so of the norm. Market news wasn't necessarily in your face. I remember having to look up the price of stocks by getting out the newspaper and looking it up versus, today I can get alerts and emails on my phone instantaneously. And so we have more market volatility today. And if we look at, an example of a couple of years ago, it was only 3 short years ago that you had both the stock and the bond market suffered big, big losses. And so the person who retired using the 4% rule right before the big decline in the stock and bond market was already immediately upside down. And so when you look at it at retirement time, what we're talking about there is called the sequence of return risk. And that can have an impact on that 4% success rule. The positive about today is, number two, I guess, is we have a higher current interest rate environment today than what we have for the past, 10, 20, 30 years. If we look at where fixed rates are today, now I know the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates a couple of times here recently, but we still have incredibly high rates. And if you utilize locking in some of these incredibly high rates, what you can do is you can ultimately reduce some of the volatility in the portfolio, have more predictable income, and be able to lock in interest rates that, would pay a really decent rate of return in today's higher interest rate environment. Number three is a long-term care plan can derail a plan, and the 4% rule doesn't take into consideration things that could happen in retirement time for retirees. In everybody that we work with, we create a retirement team action plan. And one of the things that we do in creating that retirement team action plan is we will stress test the portfolio and take a look at the probability of success of somebody being able to achieve the outcomes of what they want to live life and, have enough income that lasts forever. And the software will tell us, 50% probability of success or 70% probability of success. And then if you look at the reasons why it fails, it almost always fails in many situations because if somebody needs long-term care and it's $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month and they're in a facility for a year or two, it's not surprising that that family gets wiped out in a hurry. In the independent income system, not only do we look at how to position your assets to provide you the predictable income with a written income plan for retirement, we talk about how to put a shield over top of those assets to protect it from long-term care. And fourth, how to, efficiently plan your legacy plan, dealing with the issues of things like, what happens if your spouse unexpectedly dies? So the two of you might move into retirement thinking that, 4% is going to be comfortable. But if you thought about what happens when one of the two of you passes away and you lose one of the Social Security incomes, that can totally change the game. In the independent income system, we talk about that through our legacy plan. And fourth, I would say is unexpected expenses will come up. And so many times people will move into retirement and say, hey, I'm comfortable at 4%. And let's just say that's $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year in withdrawals. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, it's like, well, now we need an extra 40 grand to replace a car, or the basement unexpectedly flooded and I need $20,000 to, get the basement repair project done. Or my kids, or life's going to throw you an emergency. And so not only in the 4% rule, what you want to do is you'd want to have a bucket of money that's designed to provide money in the event of emergency, because I can tell you unexpected expenses will come up in retirement time. Again, my best advice to you is when you're looking at a 4% rule or you're looking at a withdrawal plan, take my 30 years of advice and experience, go on and Google independent income system, take a look at the approach that we use here at America's Retirement Headquarters. And better than that, instead of getting a generic video on concepts and ideas, give our office a call. We'll put together a custom team action plan and independent income system for you to show you what could be your best approach of how to draw income in retirement.
Just by listening to the show, you're showing that you're taking your retirement seriously. And of course, income is a major factor in that. The next step, of course, is figuring out how it works for you specifically. Can't give specific advice here on the show. To do that, you come into the office, you sit down, you speak with the guys, start developing that retirement team income plan personally for you, figure out the right withdrawal strategy, figure out what is going to work. Because at the end of the day, nothing more important to your retirement than your personal plan. 419-794-3030 is how you do it. It's 419-794-3030 or online at arhq.com. We've spoken a lot on this show about annuities, but do you really know what they are? Well, we had a chance to ask some of you, and here's how you answered the question.
I know what an annuity is. Yeah, they're an excellent retirement benefit for a guaranteed income.
Well, I know what an annuity is. I think there's many types of annuities. Some are good, some are bad. It just depends on what restrictions there are with the annuity and the fees associated with the annuity. The fees are the big thing.
So first of all, how do you think they did? And then let's set the record straight about fees in annuities. Which ones have them and which ones don't?
Well, first things first, when I have a client that purchases an annuity, the one thing that I tell them is that every year you're going to need to be re-educated about how this annuity specifically works, because they will hear things. There are certain things that are covered in an annuity discussion, and what the client hears may not be the reality of how it exactly works. But in the annuity arena, you've got variable annuities, you've got fixed annuities, you've got fixed indexed annuities. The ones that I have the most experience with that charge fees are variable annuities. Those types of annuities generally have investment sub-accounts, which hold stocks and different types of growth investments, or they have sector funds, but that is mainly a growth tool. So if you are looking to accumulate funds in an annuity over an extended period of time, let's say I have 10 years to retirement and I want to get into the annuity platform, I would probably have a discussion about a variable annuity because they provide tremendous opportunities for growth as long as the stock market does what we hope that it's going to do. A fixed annuity, on the other hand, there's really not much guesswork at all. So you're going to give a sum of money. They're going to get a declared interest rate for a specific number of years. And at the end of that term, you're going to know how much money you have. Fixed indexed annuities, some of those have fees from the standpoint of they allow you to participate in the performance of an index or the stock market. But in many cases, it kind of protects you from a really bad market year. So there's some annuities that if you say, well, the worst you can do is nothing, which sometimes is a very good year. If you have a 0% return, you're really doing okay, because in reality, the broader market might be down 20%. So, but for that protection on the downside, you're highly likely that you're going to have your upside capped. So, for example, let's say the market does 10% in growth in a year. Your fixed index annuity might only earn 4, 5, or 6%. So you don't participate in the full upside. They're helping you manage the downside, but the upside is limited by a cap. And those caps can change on an annual basis, and it requires a lot of just staying on top of how these things, how they behave and what you're exactly are looking for in an annuity. But the one comment that all those people were correct about is it provides an income stream that you can count on. So when we do our retirement team action plan and we implement the independent income system, that money in the annuity falls under that reliable income category where you buy an annuity, we can give you a number that says this is what you can count on from this annuity when you start drawing in retirement. So it's a kind of a mixed bag. You're looking for reliable income, but you're also looking at how much does it cost to own the product, and what am I giving up on the upside if I'm being protected from downside losses. So it's a discussion that can get a little bit complicated, but that's why working with us, when we talk with you, we get a good feel for what your risk tolerance is and what types of annuities you should be thinking about, and then we can weed out things and get something on the table that can really bring some value to you once you retire.
The phone number to do just that, 419-794-3030. It is important to know what you're signing up for when it comes to something like an annuity, like any contract, especially when it comes to a financial thing, and understanding them can be a little complicated, but working with someone who is independent and not a captive agent beholden to one company or another, an independent company like the Retirement Guys Formula can really shine a light on that or show you if an annuity is right for you at all, and if so, then exploring the right options. So again, that number, 419-794-3030. You can also go to the website, set up a time right there at arhq.com. And are there good reasons to take them as soon as possible at the early stage?
There are always reasons to turn on Social Security early. The factors come down, and it's very individual, is why does it make the most sense for you or for any person to want to take them early. We all know that Social Security benefits can begin at the age of 62. If you turn it on at 62, you're going to generally receive about 30% less than a person that waits till the full retirement age, which right now, if you were born in 1970 or later, full retirement age is 67. So at 67, the full retirement age, there won't be any benefit impact, positive or negative. Yes, you're going to collect more than had you turned it on at 62. But coming back to age 62, I would say that the most important thing is, are you going to continue working? If you're going to continue working, then maybe you ought to think about delaying the start of your Social Security. At age 67, full retirement age, you can earn money. You can still be working, and you can collect your full Social Security without there being an adjustment for making too much money. That's something to really take into account in your planning, and that's why doing a Social Security optimization report could be very, very important for each person. If you wait till 70, which is the age that you basically have to turn it on at 70, if you turn it on at 70, you're going to have 24% on average more benefits than a person that retires at 67 and draws on their account then. You know, when I talk with clients, these are the types of things that they say to me. Well, my mother died at 72. My father died at 74. I really don't think I can wait till 70 because longevity does not run in my family. Quite honestly, when those things are said, it's hard for me to make an argument against that. What I can make an argument against for in delaying Social Security is maybe it makes sense to take withdrawals from your IRA and retirement savings to push back the turn on of the Social Security so that you can maximize that payout or optimize that payout. I think the trend has been that more and more people are going to age 62, are turning it on at 62. I'm one of these. I'm approaching full retirement age. So I'm kind of like, when do I turn it on? And I'm going to be working for several more years. So part of me thinks, well, I'm going to optimize at 70, but I have already outlived both of my parents. So what do I think about longevity? It's a real mixed bag of decisions and thoughts and emotions that you have to go through. But the problem is when you make that decision and you file the paperwork, you've made an irrevocable decision. So you really need to take a look at your whole picture. And that's where a retirement team action plan and putting together an independent income system profile for each person makes a ton of sense. Utilizing the services that we offer here at the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Retirement Headquarters allows you to create a plan that fits your individual situation.
To figure out how and when Social Security factors into your overall retirement income plan. And as a reminder to the people at the Social Security office, that's not what they're there for, to give you that advice. You want to go ahead and have that work done ahead of time. A great way to go about it, that Social Security optimization report that the team at the Retirement Guys Formula can help you with. To reach out and obtain your own personal copy, 419-794-3030, or go to arhq.com. Cam Newton spent 11 seasons as a quarterback in the NFL. He was last on a roster in 2021. He's never officially retired, though. With a net worth of $75 million, Newton answered these rapid-fire money questions posed by Wells Fargo, beginning with, what's the best money advice you've ever received?
If you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it.
Best money habit you've developed?
Every check that comes in doesn't need to be spent.
What is the best financial advice that you'd give to a rookie specifically?
You're 24. This money that you're making has to last you until you're 64.
How did you educate yourself about money?
I educated myself by losing a lot of money.
So now we're going to turn the microphones around and put the spotlight on you guys with some rapid fire questions about your experience as a financial advisor. Let's start with this. First off, how many years have you been a financial advisor?
This is Nolan. A fun fact for me is I got licensed 1 month after I turned 18 years old. I was still a high school senior. So this year marks 30 years in the industry for me.
After 21 years in the education profession, this is my 23rd year as a financial advisor.
So 50 plus years to set the table right here. What areas of investment planning do you specialize in?
We really specialize in working with folks that are close to or in retirement time, predominantly between the ages of 55 and 70, focused on the area of retirement income planning. We have put together the process. It's called the independent income system, which is our methodology. And how we put that together is through what is called the retirement team action plan, looking at the areas of taxes, estate planning, asset protection, and money management for those people that are, focused on transition into retirement.
For a lot of my career, I was basically a stock picker and was developing customized portfolios for investors. And the one missing piece was I was always looking for a process that every client that comes into my side of the business, that I would put them through, and joining the Retirement Guys formula about a year and a quarter ago has really helped me in terms of creating a strategy for all of my clients and a process that I can implement for all of them.
In a couple of words, what is your philosophy when it comes to investment risk, especially as it relates to retirees?
I would say for retirees, you don't have time to make up for mistakes. What you want to do is not have all your money in at-risk investments. You want to have money that's set aside in different buckets that's designed to accomplish different things. I also believe that there's 5 key elements when it comes to selecting stocks in a portfolio. You want to look at companies that are cash rich, low debt, have a high profit margin, companies that have either a competitive advantage and or companies that are needed on a daily basis.
Great believer in the bucket approach, because if you're drawing income currently from a portfolio, it should be coming from a bucket of money that basically has been de-risked. It allows your other buckets to be managed more for the long term of your retirement.
Now, how do you actually go about creating a retirement plan for a family?
We create what is called the Retirement Team Action Plan. So the first part of it is the team means that here at America's Retirement Headquarters, we have the team of professionals to help take care of all of the areas of your finances. And the T also stands for taxes, estate planning, asset protection, and money management. So what we do is we develop a written summary of our observations for clients, telling them where we have identified potential threats they could be facing as they journey through retirement time, as well as where there are opportunities to take it up a notch. We then put that all together in developing a one-page summary called the Independent Income System, which shows them how to avoid the most common threats and take advantage of the opportunities as they get to and through retirement time.
In addition to what Nolan just said, I would say that I look at the investment models that we have here as a way to, the term I would use is cherry pick what is really working well in the market currently. And if nothing's working, can we go to old-fashioned cash money? The answer is yes, we can. So regardless of where the market currently is, we have the right approach to be able to position your portfolio to be able to deliver on what we want that retirement team action plan to provide our client.
And as I mentioned before, you can look at the Retirement Team Action Plan, find out more about it online at arhq.com. We've touched on this a few times, but it's always worth reiterating. Do you offer an initial consultation at no cost?
We really do. And I know, Chris, we're coming up on the end of the show here today. So to answer it simply, yes. That first appointment is complimentary. We'd love you to take that next step. Give us a call. find out a little bit and get to know the ARHQ team. You can, again, go online, get that information, or better yet, take that next step. You've probably been listening for a long time, but I'd love to meet you as one of our listeners, sit down and develop one of the retirement team action plans for you.
And it's as simple as reaching out to the website, arhq.com. You can find out more about the Retirement Team Action Plan, find out more about the actual team behind America's Retirement Headquarters. That's at arhq.com, or you can always give a call, 419-794-3030. Just a nice little spotlight there on the guys at America's Retirement Headquarters. I want to thank you so much for joining us this week on the show, as we always do. Really appreciate you taking the time. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. It's the holiday season. Hope you enjoy this kickoff here. Gentlemen, always appreciate the time. And as we wrap up, I do want to leave you with a final word.
Yeah, I would just say, remember when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.